Well, hey, good day, folks. Welcome to another edition of Lumberjack Logic. I'm your host, Neil Johnson. So excited to be with you and to share the news with you. And we've got a big story, a developing story, really. It's been breaking over the last couple of days. This deals with New Hampshire, it deals with Maine, deals with the Department of Education, it deals with also Pam Bondi, the AG in the Department of Justice. There's a lot of moving parts in this one, and I've got a lot of great information we're going to bring into the stream, but also I have two great guests. But before I get into that, folks, want to mention really quickly, might be a great buying opportunity for you. So if you didn't notice, the market, went down yesterday, and all asset classes got hit. Although gold only dropped by 1.5% about because it's not facing the same hurdles as the other asset classes because it hasn't inflated beyond its real value so much. So right now you can go to text the word lumberjack to 989-898. You can get a no obligation information kit on gold. That's from Birch Gold, folks. You can also go to birchgold.com/lumberjack, but they will teach you how to convert an existing IRA or 401k into tangible physical gold and silver. Or you can just buy tangible physical gold and silver to have as a modicum of exchange if the crap really hits the fan. Don't kid yourself. Trump is doing something brilliant here where he is trying to force manufacturing back home. In the meantime, though, there is going to be some economic pain associated with that. I know we have a lot of armchair liberal, economists that are talking about how Trump's tariffs are bad. And even certain libertarians are running around crying about these. But at the end of the day, Trump is forcing a move that's going to do good things for us long term. But in the short term, there will be some pain associated with that. And there's even been talk of going back to the gold standard. That's like a fever dream for me. I hope it happens. I don't know. But gold has never been worth nothing, and companies sometimes are. So without any further ado, though, I want to bring in my guests. I'm going to start with the intrepid reporter, Heather Mullins. Heather, good to see you.
Good to be back, Neil. It's been a hot minute.
Well, you know what? You're out in New Hampshire where all this exciting information is happening. And so also, I'm going to bring in Mr. Tom Murray. Tom, you really alerted me to this story out of Windham. But then not only that, there was a big announcement that just came out from the Department of Education, McMahon, talking about her working with Pam Bondi. And so I think what I'm going to do is just start by playing this video. So this is dealing with Title IX violations in schools. Now, we saw Maine's governor clearly defied Trump. We're seeing a number of others defy Trump. This is going on in Colorado, too. I've seen Jared Polis make some statements out there. It's happening in my state of Minnesota with Tim Walz. Gosh, do you wake up every morning and just praise God that we didn't get Kamala Harris and Tim Walz? I mean, it's bad. So anyways, I'm going to just share this video quick and then we'll get right into it.
Education, alongside the Department of Justice, is proud to announce the creation of the Title IX Special Investigations Team, consisting of attorneys and investigators from both of our agencies to adjudicate our ever-increasing volume of Title IX investigations. We have received a staggering number of complaints about men competing in women's sports and invading women-only intimate spaces. That's why we're partnering with Attorney General Bondi's team to move even faster in order to protect women and girls. The establishment of this team will benefit women and girls across this nation who have been subjected to discrimination and indignity in their educational activities. To all entities receiving federal funding who continue to allow these illegal practices, we will not permit you to trample on women's rights any longer.
So one of the things that I think is so great about this is being spearheaded by two women. So I made sure we had a gal on the stream today to get her perspective.
A real woman.
We didn't want a fake one. Anyhow, but Heather, I got to ask you a question. I mean, as a gal, how would you feel about a biological male walking into your locker room and just saying, well, today I feel like a woman?
Well, it's funny you say that because, I'm back at the gym after taking 2 months off, and I've been going. I love my gym. I love the owners, and I have already actually told them, I was like, if a man ever comes in this locker room, I will physically remove them. And I'm a strong woman. I know men are pretty strong. I'm like, but I don't play that game. And there's nothing that can stop. I honestly don't believe even a grown man can stop a mama bear when she's in her like full rage moment. And as someone who brings my daughter to the gym with me, like that's going to be my first thought when I see some perverted man coming in there dressed like a woman, or maybe not, maybe he just identifies and he's going to come in there full on man. Like, I will physically remove you because you're a threat to me and my child. And I don't care how much I can lift a grown man when I'm in that mama bear rage. Like, it'll just like be like something from God, you know what I mean? Like,
you're like one of those old ladies who lifts cars, you know?
Yeah, but like that's my thought process. And I've had this thought because I'm like, the gym where it's located is a relatively liberal town. So I'm like, it's just a matter of time before some man comes waltzing in there, and I will physically remove them, like, period. And I've already like had that discussion, but we actually have at my gym a whole entire floor that's a women's only training area. So it's, and the reason for that is there are a lot of women that are uncomfortable in certain situations around men. And that's why we have separate spaces. And so when you have people like, was it the USA Fencing Organization, which was recently in the news because a woman took a knee, refused to compete in the fencing tournament against a man, and they punished her and expelled her from the tournament. And then put out a statement, which I can actually, if I can share, I don't know if can I share my screen real quick?
You sure can. I want to note one thing, Heather, and I mean, if you have like a 250-pound ripped guy, it may be tough for you to remove him, but you can at least claw him, get the heck out of there, and kick him in the nuts, because that's how I always teach my girls, because honestly, legitimately, women aren't able to, some of these, I mean, men are 50% stronger by body weight due to testosterone and these types of issues. But I told them, I said, the first thing you do is you make the biggest scene known to man.
Can you see my screen?
I can. But if you have to, you kick them in the nuts, girls. I tell them that, and you scream and you make a ruckus. Don't ever go quietly on assault. Don't ever. Gals, if you're out there, please, for the love of all things, do not let fear overtake you. Those are difficult situations. I wouldn't invite that on anyone, or wish it upon anyone, I guess I should say. And yes, I do have your screen, Heather, so I'm going to bring that in. By the way, folks, stick with us through this stream, because as Tom has brought me some great information, I have court cases, I have documents from Windham Public Schools, what they're up to. There's a whole host of information here on what's going on. And I would encourage you, I'm going to ask you to do a call of action. If you see these violations happening, you need to report them immediately to the Department of Justice. There is a way to report that. Okay. So I'm going to bring this in. Oh, and also please smash that like, chat in with where you're from, and share the stream out. I forgot to do that at the beginning. All right, Heather, what do you got?
Okay, so the USA Fencing put out a statement saying that they remain committed to fostering an inclusive, respectful community for everyone in our sport. We believe in the principles of creating safe communities where all athletes and community members have a place. While we understand there are a range of perspectives, USA Fencing will continue to engage in respectful, research-based dialogue and review as policy evolves in the Olympic and Paralympic movement, as well as domestic law. Hate speech or targeted hate of any kind is not acceptable, online or in person. Let's keep the conversation respectful and the strip welcoming to all. So I just want to point out, first of all, if you guys want to go follow America First News on X, that's the new news network that I'm working for. Let me X out of here. But if you look, they got ratioed hardcore, right? So they got 15,000 comments. And they claim, or no, that's comments.
Yeah, how many
15,000 comments, 2.9 thousand likes. People didn't even care to like the post. They cared to comment and share their thoughts. So while they're saying they remain committed to fostering an inclusive, respectful community for everyone, the community is saying we don't support this. The community is saying women are uncomfortable. The community is saying women feel unsafe when these men are in our spaces. So when you see people claiming they're being respectful and inclusive, they're not. They're actually going against what the community wants. And the community wants men and women to have separate spaces for a reason. We're not the same. And it's just like, we're not. We're not the same. And it's so frustrating to understand how these communities like USA Fencing or any other organization that takes this unpopular stance is gaslighting their viewers, is gaslighting the public into thinking this is what the community wants. The community is so against this stuff, which is why they voted for Donald Trump. That was a public mandate to take men out of women's spaces. And now kudos to the Trump administration for making good on that promise and having these investigations into places like we're going to talk about who are refusing to do what the community wants. This is what we voted for. This is exactly what the American people voted for. And you have these rogue school boards, these rogue governors trying to go against the will of the American people. And now President Trump is going to use his power to put a stop to it.
And rogue judges. And I want to make, another point on all of this. And Tom, I want to get into Windham here because this is alarming looking at what came out of Windham, New Hampshire. But this is another one of those 80-20 issues. This is why the Democrats, if they don't change course, are going to lose in perpetuity. Okay, so this is, do you know, we literally had a judge say, whoa, you need to go fetch an MS-13 gang member and bring it back to the country.
Mm-hmm.
Now, 97% of Americans want violent illegals deported. That is 97. We are even talking woke tards at this point. I mean, no, I'm serious. I mean, this is a total loser for them, but they still keep going down this road. And here, we'll do a poll in my audience here, and then I'll pull in the Windham issue. But how many of you want men to be able to use women's locker rooms? Yes or no in the chat. Watch this. They can be anybody. I mean, this is ridiculous. Okay, so now I'm going to pull in. Well, Tom, you just sent me this one too. This is a new complaint. This is and this is in New Hampshire as well.
Yeah, this is actually a court case where the Department.
Let's go to Windham first. I want to get to this Windham. So there, talk about this, Tom. I mean, you brought this to my attention.
So what happened? This started about a month ago when I did a FOIA request, 91A request to the town of Windham, and basically more or less informing them that their current policy as it standed needed to be rescinded because it was in direct violation of the executive order that was issued by President Trump. In doing so, if you scroll down to the bottom, you'll see where less than a month ago, they updated their policy. And you talk about 80-20, they didn't change anything.
Revised March 10th, right there.
And this policy's been there since 2018. And in fact, I was on the school board during that vote, and it was a 4-1 vote. And I'll let you guess who voted against it. And Heather, your comments resonate. When my little girls come home and they're upset, there's nothing stronger than a dad wanting to protect their little girls.
Mm-hmm.
And I was furious with this policy because what this policy does, it actually codifies and makes it lawful in the eyes of the community that this is acceptable, when clearly the majority of people do not find it acceptable. And instead of going ahead and just rescinding this policy in its entirety, there are other policies that protect everybody from discrimination. And I'm not suggesting that we don't protect people from discrimination. We absolutely do. But we don't need to do this. And what this does is it creates a situation where biological men can enter women's locker rooms, women's intimate spaces, and that's just not right. That's not acceptable. That's wrong.
I saw a comment here. I want you to comment on this because everybody thinks that a Republican is going to vote the right way on this. And somebody said, I'm going to guess a left way. Tell us tell us about what really went on there. There were no leftoids voting for this.
This is the most disappointing part of the conversation. This was approved by 5 Republicans.
Honestly, freaking real, folks. Republicans. The Republican logo or Republican, the R, doesn't mean what it used to mean. So why is it that in Windham, New Hampshire, these quote unquote Republicans are okay with this? And let's just read just a couple highlights of this before you answer that. State law requires that all programs, activities, and employment practices be free from discrimination based on sex, sexual orientation, or gender identity. This policy is designed in keeping with these mandates to create, here we go again, Heather, a safe learning environment for all students. Again,
yeah, all students, just not the women.
Yeah.
That's what they mean by that. All students, but not the women, because the women of America, the students, the young girls are saying we don't feel safe. We don't. And so this is total gaslighting. It's total, can I say bullshit on here? It's total bullshit. Like they're basically gaslighting you. And so there's this emotional manipulation to try to convince people that somehow this is the right thing to do when it's actually creating an unsafe environment for women. That's what this is doing. Let's call it what it is. Continue. Sorry.
Students, that's okay. You're on your soapbox. That's fine. Students will be considered transgender at school if they consistently assert a gender identity or expression different from that traditionally associated with their this. I can't. Okay, I'm moving on. I cannot do this. This is so stupid. I just, God help us all. Here, let me get down.
It's supposed to happen, right? Like if you're a young boy or a young girl and you go to an adult and say, I think I'm the opposite gender, the adult is supposed to be honest with the child and say, you're not. This is what you are. You might think you're something different, but you are not. And it's like, it's so crazy to me that we've gotten to a place in society where adults are literally feeding into the delusions of children instead of setting the example and teaching them right from wrong.
And let me pick up on those delusions. Where do students lose their constitutional rights to speech, and where are they going to be forced to be compelled to use certain pronouns and participate in this circus? Because that's what it is.
Yes.
And we are codifying that as well, Neil.
And this, here you go, names and pronouns. A student has the right to be addressed by a name or pronoun that corresponds to the student's gender identity. A court-ordered name or gender change is not required, and a student need not change his or her official record. So they don't need to change the record. So in other words, they can vacillate, but you are forced to play along with it. And that's
yeah. So again, let's highlight that same paragraph again that you just had under the names and pronouns. This is where the gaslighting comes in, where they say a student has a right to be addressed by a name or pronoun. What that really means is you no longer have a right to your own truth, to your own reality, right? Like you are now, like you said, Neil, going to be forced to play into the delusions of someone else. So this is not about rights. This is about force. This is about forcing other people to conform, right, to something they don't believe in. So this is about forcing the majority of the community that has already voted in Trump, because we mandate that we reject these delusions. We reject this alternate reality they're trying to enforce on us. And so what that does is say, we're going to force the community to play into the delusions that they clearly rejected when we voted Trump in November to put an end to all of this stuff. So that's about force. It's not about rights. And that's where you have to really call out the play on words here, because it's gaslighting and it's distorting what it really means. And we see this a lot in politics, where the headline of a bill will be like, the
Affordable Care Act.
Yeah,
Affordable Care Act.
Yeah,
Most
the
unaffordable thing I've ever experienced in my life. Okay.
Exactly.
Gender segregated activities. Let's move on to this next one here. And I got to bring up that next case. So I got to keep this moving along. But to the extent possible, schools should reduce or eliminate the practice of segregating students by gender in situations where students are segregated by gender, such as health education classes. So now, folks, we are talking about Sex ed is what this is. Okay. Students should be included in the group that corresponds to their gender identity. Are you serious? I do not. I
so
have
important that biological men learn about menstrual cycles, right? Because they're going to have one of those.
Well, I live in Minnesota, and they're required to have tampons in the boys' bathroom. So there's that. I mean, it's a real thing, because men can have periods apparently. Okay, physical education classes and co-ed intramural sports, and this is where they lose it here because there are no. Women and men are separate sports. So transgender and non-conforming students shall be permitted to participate in physical education classes and co-ed intramural sports in a manner consistent with their gender identity. This is from the little town of Windham, New Hampshire. I mean, I've been to Windham. I've been out there filming multiple times, Tom. I've been with you, Heather, out there in Windham. I mean, Windham looks like quintessential Americana. Like you go to their government buildings, they're these old white buildings with the American flag. They look like a town hall from days gone by. And this is what's going on in Windham. This is all flying in direct violation to the keeping men out of women's sports. This is an executive order by the president. Okay. It's well written. Okay. You can look this up on whitehouse.gov. But Tom, you had this case, and I got to get to that. Tell me about this. You just sent this over to me.
Yeah, so this is a case where this is a blatant case in disregard of what's going on. So this has been filed by the ACLU, left-wing organization. And two individuals, a Parker Terrell and an Iris Trammell, are claiming that their rights are being violated because they're not allowed to participate in women's sports as biological men. And when you read the first introduction in the paragraph, I got to be honest with you. When I read this, I was actually saddened. I was saddened and angered at the same time because I feel bad for these individuals because clearly they're suffering from gender dysphoria. But the parents are encouraging this. And I got to be honest with you. These parents should be put in jail. They should be incarcerated. This is child abuse. It's sickening to me that they would put their child to that at a very young age. They knew they were girls.
How old are they? Do you know?
Well, these right now they're in high school.
Okay. Let's read this since you talked about this, the introduction. Plaintiffs Parker Terrell and Iris Trammell. Wow, the last names are transgender teenage girls. Look, this whole reading this, I mean, again, this is language ownership. You talked about this earlier, Heather, but this is key. One of the things the left understands is ownership of words. Okay, so if you can make an argument about love versus perversion, then you take love, which is the deepest human need, to be able to feel love, to know love, to receive and give love, deep human need. When you can make it about that, you can win the argument based on the war of words. So, it's hard for me to read it. I'm just going to read it as it is, though, because I just go off the rails here. But
just go for it.
Plaintiffs Parker Terrell and Iris Trammell are transgender teenage girls attending New Hampshire public high schools. Each knew from an early age that she was a girl. Each has been diagnosed with gender dysphoria, a health condition characterized by distress resulting from an incongruence between one's birth sex and gender identity. As part of their prescribed medical treatment for gender dysphoria, Parker and Iris live and interact with others as girls in every aspect of their lives. They are accepted as girls by their parents, family, school, peers, teammates, and coaches. All of them? Come on. I just, whatever. Disability to live consistently with their female identities is critical to their health and well-being, and social acceptance is a key component of each girl's medical course of care. Parker and Iris are also receiving, puberty blocking medication and hormone therapy to align their bodies with their female identities and to alleviate the distress of physical. This is sad, Tom. Physical characteristics that conflict with their gender identity. They will not go through testosterone-driven puberty, nor will they experience physical changes caused by testosterone, including the muscular development characteristics of males. Wow.
Wrong. That's so wrong.
We're at a point, imagine this, people. We're at a point where the left, the woke tards on the left, and the worst, Heather, I'm not including in this group, but the worst by far is white women. I don't know what's going on. White
Well,
college
thank you for
educated.
not including me in that.
Yeah, no, it's serious. White college educated women are the worst on all of this. Oh, look at that. We got veteran bikers in the chat. You guys know veteran bikers? He's got a big YouTube channel. Anyways, good guy. He just popped up, but he said libs know their pets' genders. Yeah, they do. They know. This is a great point. He said libs know their pets' genders. It's true.
Yeah, but this is like listening to you read that. I mean, it breaks my heart for the two boys that it's writing about, right? Those are two boys that were made perfect in the image of God. And when you think about what this is doing to children as a society, it's taking two young boys, right, that have distress, whatever caused that distress. Maybe it was a parent telling them they can be something they can't, and so now they're confused. Maybe it was a society. Maybe it was the influence of social media apps like TikTok or Instagram, like algorithms exposing them to content that suggests that maybe they're in the wrong body. But either way, what society needs to do in situations like this is tell children that they are perfect, that there's nothing wrong with them, and teach them to love themselves as they are. But instead, society is taking this approach that we are going to tear down young children and say there's something wrong with you, when in reality, there's something wrong with you if you're telling that to a child. That's the truth of this matter. If you are telling a child they need to change something about themselves in order to feel whole, you are a sick individual. And as a society, that's what we're starting to embrace. And we need to pull the brakes hardcore on this. We cannot accept this culture. We need to call it out for what it is. Like you said, Tom, this is child abuse. And those children, the chemicals and puberty blockers, that does irreversible damage. Regardless of what any propaganda article says, it does irreversible damage to children. And we need to start passing laws that criminalize this, that criminalize it across the board. And I'll go a step further and say puberty blockers and transgender surgeries need to be banned for adults too. This entire concept of mutilating a perfectly good human body by like to satisfy feeding a delusion, a mental illness, we need to completely ban that across the board for children and adults, because that should never be embraced by any morally sound society.
This is an important point, Heather, because we have this whole thought process invading the Republican Party too about libertarianism, and that, you know, as an adult, you know, whatever you want to do. No, it's not whatever you want to do. Okay. Again, because there is a whole industry behind this that's selling this, a whole industry that's selling, profiting $750,000 freaking dollars just to convert somebody. That's a lot of money on the line.
Yeah, I think like part of the reason that we even got here is because the majority of the population don't understand psychological abuse or psychological manipulation and how that is a real form of abuse, just as much as, you know, punching someone in the face or causing physical harm to them. Psychological harm is such an esoteric form of abuse that people don't understand that's what's happening. And the media has been used as a weapon to propagate this across the country by manipulating the emotions of viewers, by manipulating people into thinking that they have to think a certain way. It's such a subtle, esoteric form of abuse that we need to start having more conversations about. But like I said, there's so many people out there that think, oh, the transgender stuff is bad for children, but it's suddenly okay when you turn 18 to gaslight somebody suffering from mental illness and encourage them to mutilate their own body. Like, that shouldn't be anything that we embrace, even for adults. People that think this way need help. They need therapy. They need love. They need people around them to tell them that they're a good person, that they're perfect, that they don't need to change. Like, we've just embraced such a sadistic, evil, like medicine for an ill, like as a society, that it's disgusting. And I want to stress that even when you turn 18, it should be socially unacceptable and criminal for a doctor to mutilate someone's body part. Like,
yes. Yes.
Like,
No,
there's just
I'm
no
100%
age where that
in
should
your
be
camp.
tolerated.
Oh, which brings me back to the point about white, liberal, college-educated women. So I imagine the psyop that has been pulled when you can get white people to hate themselves for being white, when you can get men to hate themselves for being men, or you can get women to hate themselves for being women. That's a psyop of epic proportions to actually get people to hate themselves at that level. Tom, I brought this in. I want to put this back up, but so tell me what's going on with this case right now.
So it's in the courts right now, but I wanted to bring up a point that you touched on, which is you mentioned money and you mentioned right. One of the issue that's going on here is these types of cases, along with these policies, JBAB, which are prevalent throughout the state of New Hampshire. A lot of them are non-compliant. Windham's was changed less than a month ago to comply with RSA state law 193.41, whereas it's banned biological men from women's sports, competitive women's sports. But the executive order trumps everything, no pun intended. And this is where they're defying the president's executive order. And this is where Maine has gotten themselves into a lot of trouble. And I actually had 2 members of the House Legislative Finance Committee reach out to me to ask me how serious and how real is this? Because they're going through an $80 million shortfall currently right now because the federal government has clawed back a lot of the COVID money. So they're about 80 million short. So they're having a
That's a great story in and of itself, Tom. You told me about that. I didn't even know.
And so what's happening is there's a lot of panic up at the legislature, and they're not even aware of how serious this is right now. This is potentially going to not just strip Windham of their federal money, it will strip the entire district of Windham with their federal money. But moreover, it will strip the entire state. And they are playing with fire right now. And if they're going to egg on the president of the United States, along with the Secretary McMahon, along with the Attorney General Pam Bondi, go right ahead. I double dog dare you.
Yeah. So you've got a situation where you've already got shortfalls, and now they just want to exacerbate the problem. I'll just say that I think that states need to get off federal monies anyways for their education. And I will also state that, and I would like to actually do maybe somebody in the chat knows this. I always have somebody in the chat who will know this kind of stuff. But when did compulsory education by the government become a thing? Because it used to be like, if you go back even into the West, the business people of the town hired the marshal. They built the school. They did all of this. And
Can I
now,
answer that question?
Yeah.
Well, so it actually goes back to 1784 when New Hampshire signed their Constitution. It's under Part 1, Article 6 of the New Hampshire Constitution, which is labeled morality and piety. And they felt as though all men would be best served with education. And it basically was Protestant education, because Protestant, if you're going to learn your letters, you were going to learn that God loves you. And it basically, religion and education were kind of like peanut butter and jelly. And so that's what happens. And they were very specific that it was going to be the towns, the parishes, and the religious societies. And what happened was, fast forward, we go from 1784 all the way to 1877, where we have this massive immigration. We're going through the Industrial Revolution. So all these people from Italy are coming in, all these people from Ireland are coming in. And I'll let you guess what religion they were. They were Catholics. So, of course, the Protestants were concerned because they fled England because of the Pope. They didn't care for the Pope. And so we had a gentleman from Maine, by the name of John Blaine. Senator John Blaine in 1877 tried to get what's called the Blaine Amendments passed in the federal government, which was basically to strip all money and separate religion and education. And he wasn't successful at the federal level. However, he went state to state. And New Hampshire happens to be one of those states that adopted the Blaine Amendments in 1877. So what happens in 1877, we change our Constitution, Part 2, Article 83, which Article 83 is in the form of government. There's two sections, Bill of Rights in 1 and form of government in 2. All our rights are enumerated in the first part of our Constitution. The second part, we're just telling the government how to do everything. And so what they do is they have this word cherish. And in 30 years ago, in a very prominent New Hampshire court case called Claremont, what happens is the judge, Brock, in that Claremont court, made probably one of the largest usurpations of citizens of New Hampshire's rights, constitutional rights, and they demanded that inadequate education be paid by the citizens of the state. And that was never a constitutional allowed duty or requirement. It was always local. And so it wasn't until 1968 where they actually removed the secular language in Part 1, Article 6. But what remains, and this is amazing to me, is the fact that New Hampshire has a right to elect their teachers. And moreover, there is also a right that says no person can be compelled to pay towards education, which is interesting because they also removed the word towns. So I would submit to you, there is a lot of constitutional arguments to be made. And interestingly enough, one just went forward in December. It hasn't been ruled on, and it's called Convale. And it basically, the conversation arose, and there was some amicus briefs that were filed on whether or not this Claremont court, this usurpation that was made, is going to be overturned. And there's another case right behind it, Rand. And if this happens, it will literally turn education upside down in the state of New Hampshire.
Good.
Oh, wow. Tom, I mean, okay, so do you know what I find amazing? Is that you just rattled all that off the top of your head. I don't know, Heather, are you amazed? But I mean,
no,
I'm just
no, it doesn't surprise me because Tom and Ken Eyring, I mean, they pretty much like you guys started a charter school and you built a new one. And I mean, they were on the school board at one point in time. I mean, they've done their homework, and we need a lot more Toms and Kens to step up and start being the change that we want to see, because at the end of the day, it's our responsibility. It's yours, it's mine, it's Tom's, it's everyone watching. We are the executors of our government. We're a government run by the people. So if we derelict our own duty as people to oversee our government, then we're going to end up with a government that's controlling us instead of a people that's controlling the government. And so I got to applaud people like Tom that know this, that do their research, because it is our job to be informed. It's our job to know this. It's not like, oh, our government's going to handle that. No, we handle the government. And so
that's right. We are the government.
You, Tom, for that history.
And Heather, with that said, I got to tell you, you're prompting me to read my favorite article in the Constitution. And if you would so indulge me, Neil, it's Article 10, and it's the right of revolution. And it's our founding fathers that knew when things would get so perverted what to do. And here's what they said back in 1784, because this has never been changed. It said, government being instituted for the common benefit, the protection, and the security of the whole community, and not the public interest or the emolument of any one man, family, or class of men. Therefore,
or school board.
Or school board. So whenever the ends of government are perverted and the public liberty manifestly endangered, and all means of redress are ineffectual, the people may and of right ought to reform the old or establish a new government. The doctrine of non-resistance against the right, arbitrary power and oppression is absurd, slavish, and destructive of the good and happiness of mankind.
You read that from where?
That is Part 1 in the Bill of Rights of the New Hampshire Constitution, Article 10.
Yeah, it's almost like paraphrasing the Declaration of Independence that says that the people have, the right to alter, abolish, and institute new government if the government becomes so corrupt that it threatens the life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness of its people. And so, like, we're seeing that all across the country, not just in the education system, but also with the election system. When you have so much corruption that you can't have a free and fair election, like California, for example, that took 4 or 5 months to count freaking votes, for crying out loud, something crazy like that. And so many people are like, there's so much ballot harvesting and corruption and pay to play and all this other stuff. It's like, when you have all of that threatened, it's not just the right, it's you have a civic obligation, a civic duty to institute new government, to hold a new election, to create a new system of government. It's the people's job, and it's just.
And that's the first thing they say, Heather. The first article in the New Hampshire Constitution says all right of government originates from the people, and it's in consent.
Do you know, back when I remember David Jose. We did a campaign with a gentleman by the name of David Jose back during the time of COVID. And Dana, thank you so much for that super chat, and we'll do our best to keep your good work up. But when David, we did an affidavit campaign for the state of Minnesota during that. Why is that? Are you guys getting an echo?
Yeah,
that's got to be coming from somewhere over there. But anyways, when we did this, it was during the COVID issue. All right, and so we told Governor Walz, "You're busting our Constitution," and we sent all these sworn affidavits. There were probably over 1,000 that got sent in. But listen to this. I learned the Minnesota State Constitution during that time, and I didn't even know it before. But which is why this was an act of grace that Trump didn't get in 2020, because we learned all of this. And even ours. Listen to this. Minnesota, woke Minnesota, object of government, section 1. Government is instituted for the security, benefit, and protection of the people in whom all political power is inherent, together with the right to alter, modify, or reform government whenever required for the public good. No member of this state shall be disenfranchised or deprived of any of the rights, privileges secured to any citizen thereof, unless by the law of the land or the judgment of his peers. There shall be neither slavery nor involuntary servitude in the state, otherwise than as punishment for a crime of which the party has been convicted. We also have liberty of the press, trial by jury, on and on it goes. All of these state constitutions were actually written pretty well, but New Hampshire, you guys have one of the best. Live free or die.
Live free or die.
Live free or die. So with that, folks, I'm gonna give you guys each like a parting comment, and then we'll close this up. We're barreling in on 45 minutes here. But I guess, Heather, we came into this. We're talking about the federal government, the Department of Education partnering with the Department of Justice, and here we have a lady on to give her perspective on this whole issue of men and women's sports, transgender, all of that. So.
Yeah, so I mean, I guess I would just leave you guys with, just when you read all of this, understand that there's a lot of gaslighting going on, that the actual community, like when they use words like "we want a safe community," they're really saying we want it unsafe for women, and start calling things for what they are. Like, it's not a tolerant, it's not inclusive, like nothing about this. This is all of that wordage is garbage. And what they're really doing is creating an unsafe environment for for women. They're going against the mandate the community has issued when we voted for people like President Trump to, put a stop to all of this. So they're going against the community. So this is about creating an unsafe environment for women and forcing the community to go along with a disillusion and basically the will of the minority. So that's kind of, I don't know, I didn't really say that too well.
Got it,
it's those two things.
I got it. Tom?
I got two asks. Number one, we have 10,000 voters on our checklist in Windham. Only approximately 2,400 showed up. This is how we wind up with these rogue type of boards. And really what needs to happen is we need to pay attention to our local elections. Windham voted for Trump overwhelmingly. We need the same people that got out the vote to go show up at the polls for Trump to show up for the local elections. You cannot support these individuals that are going to put forward policies like JDAD. And if you agree with us and you share the same mindset, I would ask that you would reach out to these school board members and try to persuade them and let them know that these policies do not represent you, the community, the state, or our country. And Neil, if you could be so kind to put up their email, which is wsb@windhamsd.org. And please, I'm asking people to respectfully share your thoughts with them.
WSB at
Windham, WINDHAM, S as in Sam, D as in dog, SD.org, O-R-G.
Boom. Okay, I'm going to put it in the chat for you right now, Tom. And I'm going to bring this up here too really quick and just acknowledge that. That was from Brian, who finally caught a live. So thanks, Brian, for that super chat. And glad you were able to catch a live today. So there people in Windham, this is send your emails. But you all have school districts as well. And you see the stuff going on in your communities. So you can email them in your communities. Tom's point about taking local action is huge. Now, and I think it is very important what Tom said there. Look, if Trump isn't on the ballot, people do tend to lose interest. You cannot skip an election. That is not an option right now. Your local is where your vote will count the most.
Not only that, but I would call on anybody that's watching this. Like, if you feel called and you have the time availability, run yourself, be the change, right? Like, we need all these MAGA people that show up to Trump rallies. Imagine how different we would transform our country if they ran for commissioner, if they ran for school board, if they ran for all of these positions. And it's honestly sad when you look at how many races are actually like uncontested, where Democrats just get this shoe in. And it's like, oh my God, nobody's even challenging them on these fronts. And we need to change that at the local level and at the state level. And, you know, like, as much as we all want to be like, oh, we're going to vote for Trump, Trump's going to fix everything. He's nothing without resources. It's like a star quarterback, but the rest of the team is garbage. Like, it takes everybody in order to implement change. So if you're watching this and you feel called and God puts it on your heart, run for school board in your own community and or find someone, encourage a family member. If you know someone that'll be good for it, reach out to them and say, hey, I really think, like, God put it on my heart to reach out to you. I think you'd be a person that would be great for this, and inspire your friends or family to run.
Tom, you had two things and you just mentioned one. So what was your other?
I don't recall.
Well, I'm going to tell you all something. You can all go to the Department of Justice's website. Report anything that you see in your areas. That was it. Was that it?
File a complaint. That's what I was saying.
File a complaint. File a complaint with the Department of Justice when you see those things occurring. And also send an email to the Department of Education, to the Department of Justice, and thank them for investigating this. One of the things I think we can do, I mean, there's a lot of complaining on social media. You can also, if you're on X, and real quickly, Heather is at Talk, TALK Mullins on X. Your X account?
On my X account, I never go on there, but it's like Tom, you're one, I think.
Okay, well, whatever. Tom doesn't care to have you follow his X, but he's got the Integrity Project. The
Government Integrity Project, GIP.org. Yep, we're still on
GIP.org.
Fighting a good fight.
And I'm at Neil E. Johnson on X, but that's NEIL. But you can actually go to Pam Bondi. I actually take Cash Patel, Dan Bongino, and Pam Bondi all this morning, posted something because they just put a guy in charge of the Washington, D.C. field office who is one of the people who was in charge of the domestic terrorism office and was not kind to J6ers. So I'm wondering why that person got that promotion. So I tagged all.
I saw something that said that was fake news. I don't know if that's been confirmed or if that was like a.
Well, my friend Brian Lupo reported on it, and he's usually pretty good. So I went with that, and I tagged the article that he wrote on it. So,
well, do you mind if I real quick just plug in the chat? I'm actually building out a news network. And so I just wanted to post the social handles for anybody that wants to go follow it. It's called America First News. So it's a new project of mine that we're already starting to get content across X, across Instagram, Facebook. We even have a TikTok.
Oh, wow, TikTok.
Yeah, so so I just posted the handles in the comments. So if you guys want to go follow, we have a YouTube channel, but I haven't started posting to YouTube, but you're going to be seeing a lot more of me over on this network. So,
all right. So there you have it, folks. And thanks so much for joining us this morning. We appreciate you taking your time to get informed, to listen to the news. Please do take some of those actions, sending out those emails, filing those complaints. These are big things. There's big things happening in Wisconsin, folks. I will try to get coverage on that here this next week. But Peter Berniger is doing great work in the state of Wisconsin, not only to expose it, but actually filing large-scale complaints against electioneering and election fraud out in the state of Wisconsin. We just saw the Supreme Court race in North Carolina. That we're probably going to see a flip on that. So the Democrat had kept that seat, but I don't think that's going to happen because 64,000 votes have been called into question. Those all have to be verified in 15 days. People have to submit photo IDs to match up with their ballots. If they do not, their votes are going to be eliminated. I believe the Republican is going to win that, state Supreme Court seat in North Carolina. So that's big. I did a live on that yesterday. And folks, I got to apologize. I kept calling it South Carolina because I had SC for Supreme Court in front of me. I knew it was North Carolina, but I was just so worked up over the whole thing. So thank you for all of you and your patience, because I know I mentioned that at the end of the stream, but you're a great audience and you're very forgiving. So make sure to smash that like on the way out, chat in with where you're from, and go text Lumberjack to 989898 to get your free info kit on gold, folks. The best performing asset class. I talked to my financial advisor. He said it's by far been our best performing financial asset class. Fortunately, silver took an 11% dip on Friday, so it might be a great time to buy silver. I don't know. What do you think, Tom?
I'll be in it. I am in it.
So, all right, folks. We'll see you in the next episode. Peace out.
Peace.